Paul, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Antoine, thank you for having me. This is such a wonderful opportunity. Thank you again.
Paul, you've had a very interesting career. IBM, Salesforce, Procter and Gamble, and recently you started your own company. So why was this the right time to jump into entrepreneurship?
Oh man, I've been thinking about that question for a long time as well. The funny thing is, I didn't wake up one morning and decided to be a founder or an entrepreneur. I think it was a slow build. My career has spanned, the tech space, enterprise sales, a lot of consulting. So it gave me a front seat to, what everybody wants, what good looks like. So I always thought that, hey, if I want to build something, I'll take all of those learnings, infuse it into that, and then go where the need is. And really that need became how do customers go through transformational journeys? How do they, take in AI and all the technology that's out there, and how do you really align it to business? So that's where it's all started from. And one day I'm like, hey, I should be doing this for myself. I should really go where the need is and bring my expertise to those companies.
Hmm. Do you have like people around you that are entrepreneurs or someone influenced you into this, or have you always thought about eventually starting your own company?
I've always been curious. I have a lot of friends who have exited multiple companies. So when we go out for drinks, it's always about, hey, what you learned from it? What were some of the challenges? And to me, it was always exciting because there's always a problem to be solved. And I'm like, I actually want that opportunity. I want to go address challenges and go figure out how to get past the hurdles. So friends, definitely a lot of people that I know close to me have gone through this journey. And also my last two jobs, after I left the corporate world, I left MuleSoft. I worked for a small company called Kippy, which is a Snowflake partner. That got acquired a couple of months ago, and I went to work for Optimus, which is an Azure partner as well. So both, the guys who ran the company were serial founders, so I learned a lot from them as well.
Oh, let me read this. You specialize in cloud migration, Azure marketplace enablement, AI-driven cloud optimization. Cnovate empowers startups to scale faster, reduce complexity. So talk to us about what that all means practically.
Yeah.
What it is really, and how are you helping those companies?
Yeah. So before I talk about what we do, let's talk about the who I like to service, right? So I feel like startups, there are a lot of companies that are developing technologies and products related to AI or just transformational software that they're building. Now we don't have this monolithic software. We don't have huge platforms. It's niche, best of breed. So there are a lot of small companies using AI to develop better AI products. So the speed to market is really fast, right? To be competitive, you have to get to the market really fast. And what I've seen is they're actually neglected. A lot of companies want to go for the enterprise, for the big established business. These are companies that are just starting off. They probably have seed money or they're bootstrapping. They need a lot of help because they're like, hey, I want to focus on the product that I'm developing. I don't have a team to go look at the infrastructure or how do we move to the cloud or how do we even get on the Microsoft Marketplace, for example. So that's where I found where the need was. And I said, hey, let's go help those startups. And volume-wise, the number of startups that are being incubated every month is enormous. So the market opportunity is enormous.
Do companies know what they need, or are you more of a showing them the services and the upside and how it would help their startup?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think there's some companies that know everything, but it becomes a capacity issue. They're like, hey, our core team is developing the product. We need to do that for all the other stuff. We're going to bring in other resources to help us. So that's a capacity need. Or there's a capability need where they're like, hey, I know my specialization, I know this particular industry I'm serving or this particular use case. I know nothing about AI or the cloud. That's a capability need. So I think most of the customers we're dealing with were either addressing a capacity or a capability challenge,
What is
right?
the profile of the startups? Is it like different industries? Do you service anyone, or is there someone in particular?
Yeah, so what I try to go after are companies because my consulting practice is only around Azure. So it's a great platform. A lot of companies typically start with GCP or AWS, and then when they see that, hey, that their product has been developed, they want to go sell to enterprises. They're like, hey, I need to get a marketplace listing on the Microsoft Marketplace so I can co-sell with Microsoft to these big enterprises. And to get listed on the marketplace, you need to be on Azure. So I start off my initial thing, and if you look at my tagline, is migrate, innovate, transact. So the migration piece is, hey, let's take you from wherever you are onto Azure first. By innovate, I mean let's take all that Azure has to offer, whether it's AI or just doing like automation work. You want to do iPaaS and all that kind of stuff. So we'll do all of that. And then the end goal for these startups is always to become listed on the marketplace so they can transact with these enterprise customers. So I think that's the whole value proposition is like, hey, if you want to end up on the marketplace, we can get you onto Azure. We can let you use everything that Azure has to offer. So that's kind of like what I bring to the table. We help startups really get transactable on the marketplace quickly.
So you emphasize the point that the speed to market is critical.
Mhm.
And those startups, they want to access those large enterprise companies. And to do so, they need to be on Microsoft Marketplace. And
Correct.
the learning curve to do all that might be, it
Yeah.
might be too expensive in terms of time. So they would just go to you and you'll be able to get this done very quickly so that they don't have to worry about this. Is that the business model?
That is exactly the business model. So um, when enterprise buy software, they buy a big contract. Think about everything Microsoft offers. 365, there's CRM, there's Dynamics, there's automation, and there's Azure. So when they sign these big contracts, when they consume software, the best way for them to draw down from the contract is to go buy from the marketplace. So a lot of companies want to be listed on the marketplace. So not only do you have access to those enterprises, Microsoft actually co-sells with you. If they like your product, they're going to help you knock down doors to the big banks or insurance companies or healthcare companies and say, hey, there's this great product that somebody has built. Would you be interested? Right? So the co-selling motion is very important. Now, obviously, the more you grow Microsoft, the more you spend. Microsoft also funds a lot of this, both from a Azure consumption credits perspective or services perspective. A lot of times I'm able to write up, a business case and have Microsoft fund the services as well. So there's a lot that we offer, not just from a technology perspective, but how do you get quickly listed on the marketplace? How do you leverage all the programs that Microsoft has to offer? So it takes a lot to kind of understand. There's a lot of material out there, a lot of information out there. So we help you really get there. For example, I've heard companies take 6 months to get on the marketplace. We can do it in less than 2 weeks, right? So that's the value that we bring to the startups.
Can you just explain to us what is the marketplace?
Yeah.
What is it, the Microsoft marketplace? Is it just like an easy to access for corporates?
Yeah, the best way to describe it is like if you have an iPhone, you have the App Store, right? For you to go buy any apps, like, I mean, that's where you buy it. So you're able to transact, your invoicing, everything is done by that. So if you have a product that you've built, you want to go list it on the marketplace because that's where the enterprise procurement team are buying their software from, right? So if you're an AI company that's built, for example, a product that helps really big insurance company do document parsing, for example, right? You're not going to be able to go talk to them, talk to procurement, say, hey, I have this great product, let me do a demo for you. But Microsoft can't open that door for you, right? They'll go back and say, hey, look, we have this great product that's on the marketplace. Do you mind if they do a demo? And if they like it, then they'll buy it through the marketplace. And so Microsoft pays you in the back end. There's whole invoicing. There's a whole structure. Is your product security compliant? Is it transactable? Are all the APIs there? What is the support method? So all of these has to be addressed before you go on the marketplace. And so we have a partnership with a company called WeTransact. We work together. I provide the technology. They do the marketplace listing. Together, this is an end-to-end service for our startups, specifically startups who are looking to transact on the marketplace because they want access to those enterprise customers.
When you talk to startups, what's their biggest concern?
I think it's time to market. They're like, hey, I have this idea, but there's no moat around this idea. Anybody can have this idea. So if I don't get to the market and I don't get a bunch of customers that are using me, somebody else is going to beat to me, right?
Mm.
So one of the things that we really try to focus on is responsiveness. Can we get going quickly, right? I can't sign off on a project and say, hey, it'll take a month to start the delivery because I have to go find resources. We have to start within the week. Like if they're going to go ahead, they really want to push for it. So I had customers come to me and say, hey, I want to be on the marketplace by the end of the month. How do we make that happen? Right. So I'm not saying every startup is the same, but most of the startups that I've talked to, speed, getting to market quickly, building a client base, that's very important to push off the competitors. Because there's the ideas, once you have an idea, it's really easy right now with the age of AI to go build something.
Once people get into the marketplace, is your job done, or do they still ask for assistance? Like, how do I promote? How do I sell? You did mention the partnership with Microsoft, but do you also assist post marketplace?
Yeah, so the two things from a technology perspective, look, I come from a customer success background, right? So for me, a project is never done just because we migrated and the SOW has been delivered, right? That's not the one that I do. So we have something called Cnovate Pulse Check. So what I do it is with every engagement, every quarter, you get 10 hours of, no charge, non-billable work that an architect will come in to do cost optimization, performance optimization, make sure the policies are in place. Maybe you just have some tweaks you want to make, right? So for the first year, every quarter, it's a complimentary service. We provide it at no cost. For me, a project cannot be just one and done because sometimes you miss something or there's more to be done, right? There's optimization to be had. So that's one thing that we do from a technology perspective. The second is we transact when they offer you to get on the marketplace. It's a subscription model. So they take care of all the stuff ongoing. So, for example, if you blow up and there's a whole bunch of invoices coming in, or there's some tweaks you need to make, we transact also offers that together, right? So it's never a one and done engagement. It's always ongoing. And then the other thing that we really bring is that we have a lot of Microsoft networking connections. So, for example, if startups get stuck, they're like, hey, I need access to the Founders Hub, or I need to get onto this program or that program, or who do I go to for co-selling? I just have a couple questions. We provide a lot of help there. So for me, it's not really technical help. I think that's just one aspect of it. For us, is really understanding what are the startups looking for? How do we help them? How do we help them leverage all the programs that Microsoft has to offer? Like, I don't know if you know this, but on the marketplace, if you are a startup, sorry, not on the marketplace, but with Microsoft, if you're a startup, you can get up to $100,000 in Azure credits, right? So imagine if you're a startup and you're trying to build something and your cash flow is low. Are you going to pay and you're trying to develop a product and you have a couple of pilot customers? Maybe they're not even paying for the service. You just want to accumulate customers, right? So who's going to pay for that technology? Microsoft understands this and they're going to give you free credits till you get to a level where you're bringing revenue in. So to apply those for those funding, to really understand what that is, that's something we can help with as well. This is not proprietary information. It's all on the website, but we help you get through the noise and just get to it faster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're making it sound really easy. There are these funds available, but I'm sure there's a bit more complexity to it. Uh, but but I really want to ask, what's your relationship with Microsoft? I mean, you're using Azure, you're getting people off of Google Cloud and off of AWS. What's your relationship with Microsoft? Are you technically partners in some way? Like,
Yeah,
what
so
is
so
this?
we're partners, so we're eligible for, like, for example, the funding that Microsoft has to offer, right? But I think the real thing is we as a company, we're very intentional that we want to go after one technology. We believe in Microsoft. We believe in all the AI, new innovation that's coming out with and stuff, the investments it's making, Copilot. So everything for us, they just released AI Foundry as well. Everything for us speaks to, hey, this is the right direction. They're really trying to help startups. Um, a lot of startups turn into unicorns, right? So imagine how if this big unicorns, how much Azure consumption they're going to have. So Microsoft is investing in them right now. I think I heard something like they have 50,000 customers going through the Founders Hub right now. So they're dealing it at a large scale. And I wanted to tie kind of my company to that growth and success and that opportunity that's there. And that's why we're really focusing on Microsoft. And in the last year working at Optimus, I was working with Microsoft as well. We've developed some really good relationships. But my goal is to only focus on that very small segment, the startups, and to really go after, migrate, and get them on the marketplace. We'll start small there, but it's a global need. So think about it. It's not just, hey, me doing this in Canada or North America. Latin America has a lot of startups. Middle East has a lot of startups. I've been reading about, all the funds that are available in Abu Dhabi and Qatar and stuff like that. So a lot of startups that are being incubated there, they're all product companies. They're going to need a services company. So that's why I would like to come in and add some value.
Can anybody get on the marketplace? I mean, is there a startup that comes to you and their product is not great that you tell them that, I'm sorry, it's not like an open door?
Yeah, it's definitely not an open door. Think about, if you want to get your app on the App Store and, for iPhone, like it's the same thing, right? There's some requirements, stuff like that. And that's where we come in and we make sure that they are, eligible to be on the marketplace, set them up correctly, take care of the technical piece. There's some other requirements as well to be eligible. So we help them go through all of that.
But I'm talking about the substance of the company itself. What if their product is like there's something a lot better on the marketplace? Do you take any part of this conversation or you're just the facilitator? We'll get you there.
Look, at the end of the day, I also want to try and do work that's purpose driven, that adds value and stuff like that. I'm also not afraid to say my mind. So if I talk to a company like, hey, your product is not going to work, I'm going to have an opinion. I might choose not to do the work. I don't want to take on every project blindly. Um, but I think people are smart these days. They have a lot of help. They ask a lot of questions. They validate a lot. I've never seen somebody come in with a totally absurd idea that I think is really off, like it's not going to work. Most of the people I've started talked to, they actually have some really good ideas. And with the speed with which they're developing it, and the money that they're raising, they're like, oh my God, I was able to bring this person in, that person in, and now we're building this team together, and they have this vision and this product and their roadmap of what they're going to develop. I'm like, this is so exciting. I want to partner with you from the ground up, right? Because this company might blow up one day and become so big. So I take every call with a lot of curiosity. I want to learn about what they're doing. So it's not just a technical challenge, but also, hey, what is the purpose of your product that you're developing, right? What's the competitive advantage that you have? So those conversations actually are the most exciting part of my, day. It's like learning about new products, new companies. How do they ideate over you? I know you're doing the same thing. You're, talking to a lot of founders and stuff like that. I do that in my job as well when I'm consulting with them. So it's definitely the most exciting part of my day by far.
So, how are you raising awareness? It's been a couple of months. You're brand new on the market. It's like you said. I mean, after hearing this entire conversation, I'm like, yeah, there's a big gap. And how are you? How are you putting yourself out there? How are you attracting these new clients?
Well, I've heard that doing this podcast is going to land me $1 million.
Great answer.
No, look, so most of I've developed enough a good repertoire with Microsoft that most of my business comes from Microsoft. So they're talking to excuse me, a startup who's willing to go and they're like, hey, there's a partner that can help you go through the migration faster. Let us introduce you to Cnovate, right? So I would say the majority of the business comes from there. The second is there's always, has any business, I think you have to go out there and show, hey, what is it that you know? What is it that you do? So that comes from your website, from your LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn has worked really well. You have to do a lot of posts, brand awareness, webinars, events. So those are the kind of things you have to do. So that's one thing I think I learned as the founder is that you have to wear multiple hats. I never envisioned myself being a marketer or anything other than sales with a technology background, right? I went to school, I did a computer engineering degree and a business degree together. For me, right from the beginning, it has to be balanced between technology and business. Every job I've taken has a component of business and technology in, right? But now it's the other aspects of it, beyond the technology, beyond the sales, the marketing, the branding, all of that stuff. It's been a challenge, but it's also been exciting, right? Something new to take on, develop a new skill set and all that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of it is like have some thought, have something to say, something meaningful to say, but make sure you get it out there. Just do it through LinkedIn or post or on your website through articles or something like that. And especially with AI these days, I don't need to worry about formatting it or having the right grammar, vocabulary, all that kind of stuff. I just put a whole bunch of thoughts, put in AI. I'm like, hey, help me create a LinkedIn post. It does all the work for you. It's just so easy to get your thoughts out there in a well-structured way. And if you're not using AI, I mean, you're losing out because as a founder, I think that's one thing that I've really learned to leverage is all the great AI tools that are out there.
Paul, thank you so much for taking the time. That was a super interesting conversation.
Amazing. Well, thank you for having me.